Okay, so the strategy for Rotface is basically you have two tanks. One tank is going to be kiting the oozes around the outside of the room, and then the main tank is going to be tanking the boss. So the main mechanic of this fight are the oozes that get spawned. Every time he casts a mutating infection on a random person in the raid, they get a slime. Now, the slime does damage, the mutating infection does damage, 4,000 damage every second. And what you do if you get the mutation on you is you run out of the raid, and you try to find the off tank who's going to be tanking the slimes, and then you wait if there's not already a slime there, because if there's more than one slime, in 10 yards, then they merge together, and you take that, and the off tank taunts it and kites around the room, and you just keep doing that until 5 slimes, and it becomes unstable and starts shooting missiles out. The entire raid runs to the outside of the room, and you avoid the missiles as they crash down because they do 10,000 damage per hit. So that's about the first phase. Then the second phase is basically almost the same as the first, except the amount of time in which he casts mutating infection shortens. So you have a lot more slimes up and a lot more missiles to dodge and whatnot, and then he spawns slimes on the floor like slime pools. You avoid those. That's basically the fight. You kite the boss around the slimes, you don't get hit by the missiles, and if you have a slime on you or mutating infection, run out of the raid, because it does do raid, or not raid-wide damage, but it does damage to the people around you, and if you're melee like me, then it's basically raid-wide damage.
Fuck the explosions, get him out, 1k, 100, he's down. Woo!
Yes.
Nice.
Thank God.
Thanks for coming, EasyQ.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo!
As you can see, some pretty awesome loot dropped. I'll link it in the sidebar, and I will try to be more on top of linking loot that drops in the sidebar from now on. Festergut, Festergut, Festergut. Why do all of these bosses in Icecrown Citadel have just such lovely names? Anyway, okay, so the strategy behind this boss is slightly more straightforward than Rotface. It is basically a DPS race and kind of like a gear check for people, and kind of to see if you're really ready to go into the rest of Icecrown Citadel. Okay, so the strategy of this boss is really based around the gas spores that Festergut spawns, and the pungent blight that he casts after he throws out 3 sets of gas spores. So ever so often he'll cast a set of gas spores, 3 gas spores on 25 and 2 gas spores on 10 man, and it is the people. He casts them on random people, but in most cases they'll all spawn in one place. So whoever has them, so if you're a melee, you should run out to the ranged if there's already a spore in the melee class, or say if there's 2 in the ranged, one of the ranged should run close to the melee, because once they kind of pop after 12 seconds, if you are not in range of that spore, you will not get inoculated, and if you don't, the inoculation stacks 3 times, and it reduces shadow damage by 75%, and if you do not have at least 2 hits of inoculation, you will get one-shotted when he casts Pungent Blight, since Pungent Blight is a massive AoE attack that hits everybody in the raid for 50,000 damage. So if you not at least have 2 stacked, which is a subtraction of 50% damage, then you will get one-shotted. So that's kind of like the perspective from the DPS and heals point of view. But what about the tanks? The tanks have to watch their stacking debuffs, because every 12 seconds he casts something called Gastric Bloat on the tank, and it increases the tank's damage, but if it reaches 10 stacks, the tank will blow up and do a massive AoE, basically wiping the raid. So at 9 stacks, the tank should, or the off tank should be picking up aggro, and the main tank should be stepping back until the off tank gets 9 stacks, and it's just basically back and forth with the tanks. Something to watch out for though is that even though the main tank is not tanking still, or not tanking with 9 stacks, the damage increase is still there. So you have to be careful not to pull aggro off of the off tank, because you're doing like 90% of the damage you were doing before. So that's the fight. It's basically a DPS race. The strategy is, like I said, fairly simple. It's just a tank switch and kind of like you have to be really spatially aware of where you are, what you have, and making sure that you are where you're supposed to be. So that's that. I hope you guys had a good President's Day weekend, and yeah, thanks for watching. Thank you to the subscribers, and thank you to all those who point out like errors that I've made or you know, constructive criticism on the video. So thank you very much. So I read the comments that you guys leave on my videos, and they're all really cool, and it's really awesome to hear back from you guys. So I thought, why not take this one step further and give you a reason to comment rather than just, you know, if I did something wrong or if you really liked the way I said something, or I don't know. So the question of the video or of the day is, what do you do when you're supposed to be raiding? And I don't mean like listening to music or whatever. I mean, you know, you're on trash or you're doing a really boring, dumb boss and you're kind of distracting yourself with something else, whether it be Xbox or Hulu or Peggle. I don't know. Just put your comments and your answers in the comment section, and I don't know if you want a video response. I don't know why you'd want to. It seems kind of invasive, but whatever. But yeah, my answer to this is I play Peggle a lot. And I usually duel people who are also raiding and tanking. Very productive. So, that's my answer. What's yours?